Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the number one source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hey, fine folks, this is Freedom Fighter. Actually, today is Labor Day, Monday, September the 2nd, 2024. I hope everyone is enjoying their Labor Day. If you're listening to this late, I hope you did enjoy it, because this episode will be released in a few days. This is a bonus episode regarding Iraq and the meeting that Goldilocks reported on this past Saturday as an update to the meeting that the central bank had in New York with the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury from August the 26th through August the 29th. This is directly from the CBI. I'm going to share with you. The link is going to be in the description. This actually gives us a timeline or a time frame from whence Iraq is looking to complete a major step that will eventually allow them to go international and release the Iraqi dinar. This is something that most people probably didn't realize in the article directly from the CBI that Goldilocks shared. So we wanted to give you some specific time to really learn and read what the central bank released on August the 30th. It's an actual press release. It's from the Central Bank of Iraq media office. Let's jump right into it. The Central Bank of Iraq announced the results of the visit of the delegation headed by the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq to the United States of America, which lasted from the 26th through the 29th of August. Folks, remind you, this is a press release from the CBI. The Central Bank of Iraq confirmed that the high-level negotiating delegation, remember, negotiating delegation, headed by His Excellency Governor Al-Alaq, held a series of intensive meetings in New York City, which included talks with the U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, in addition to the meetings with a group of companies such as Visa and MasterCard, MoneyGram, as well as Citibank and JP Morgan Chase, as well as international auditing companies such as Ernst & Young, KPMG, Oliver Wyman, as well, which is a global government consulting company. The participants in the meetings praised the significant transformations achieved by the Central Bank of Iraq, which represent an unprecedented achievement at the country level, meaning at the country level of Iraq, as the bank, meaning as the Central Bank of Iraq, has made remarkable progress in the procedures to control foreign transfers, which is money going in and out of Iraq, and cash sales of the U.S. dollar currency. Now they've achieved remarkable progress in controlling the cash dollars in and outside of Iraq, because on January the 1st, it became law inside of Iraq to only use the U.S. dollars at the airports for travelers. That's it. Now I'm going to continue. The control of those transfers, which also led to the improvement of regulations. Now here we are talking about rules, laws, regulations, policies, and procedures in accordance with international standards and local standards, enhancing transparency and covering foreign trade, meaning money of different currencies going in and out of Iraq, and providing protection for the Iraqi banking and financial sector from the risks of money laundering, terrorist financing, and financial crimes. So here you see Iraq is reporting on the amazing results, achievements of actually minimizing the illegal activities of financial crimes and and financing of terrorists. Announcing at this meeting between the Central Bank of Iraq, officials with its international partners. Folks, I want you to listen to what I'm about to share with you. I'm going to say it slow. Pay attention fast. Announcing a meeting folks, between the Central Bank of Iraq and its officials with its international partners, meaning those international partners, JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, the global international auditing firms. By the end of this year, 2024, on a major shift in ending the electronic platform for external remittances and replacing it with direct banking relations between Iraq banks and the International Correspondent Bank Network. According to the plan developed by this bank, meaning by the Central Bank of Iraq, which is in force internationally, which will allow the Central Bank of Iraq and the Federal Reserve Bank to exercise their regulatory roles away from executive procedures, meaning exercising their role from away from the executive powers of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, as this shift will have important repercussions on the stability, the flow, and transparency of the country's foreign trade, meaning on Iraq's foreign trade financing operations, pointing out that it aims to achieve required stability in exchange rates, which in turn will enhance the efficiency of the financial system in Iraq. What does this mean? I'm going to break it down slow, follow fast. In this meeting in New York, remember, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which is the branch of our Federal Reserve, this is where the Central Bank of Iraq's oil revenue, the bank account for the central bank's oil revenue, is at the Federal Bank of New York, which is the central bank. The account. So, Iraq's oil, 80% of Iraq's revenue comes from their oil. The sale of oil. That bank account is in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Why? Well, when the United States invaded Iraq and they took control of the oil and the accounts for the oil, they put the account into the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. So Iraq does not have control. If Iraq wants to get money to pay for salaries, for anything coming from that oil account, they got to ask the Federal Bank of New York for permission. This was as a result to control, terrorism when the United States went in to Iraq in 2003 in the invasion. So ever since, Iraq hasn't had control of their oil reserves or the oil accounts. Now, when it states, I'm going to read it again, announcing a meeting by the Central Bank of Iraq with its officials and international partners by the end of this year 2024 on a major shift. A shift in ending the electronic platform for external remittances. Folks, the external remittances is the account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York for the oil. So the ending of this electronic platform for the external remittances and replacing it. So now there's a shift to replace that account with direct banking relationships between Iraqi banks and the international correspondent banking network. So there's a conglomerate of banks internationally that Iraq will be connecting to as they are removed by way of this shift from the electronic platform, replacing it with a global international connection of banks. And what will happen as a result? It will allow the central bank, and this is from the CBI. The link is in the description. You can click and read it and translate it for yourself from Arabic to English. And we may even do that for you, but the link is in the description. By a result of this shift, by the end of this year, it will allow the CBI and the Federal Reserve Bank to exercise their regulatory roles away of their executive procedures. What are the executive procedures? The executive procedures is that the Federal Bank of New York controls and has an executive role to control the bank account for the CBI and their oil. Now, what is a result of this shift and removing themselves from the grip of this electronic platform? It will have important repercussions on the stability, the flow, and transparency of Iraq's foreign trade financing operations, pointing out that it aims to achieve, meaning the Iraq aims to achieve its stability in exchange rates. We have a problem, we have a solution. What's the problem? The problem is Iraq is not able to fully obtain stability in the dinar if they have to go through a middleman that controls 80% of their revenue from oil by way of the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. They have to get away from that middleman. And once they do, the achievement in doing so, it allows the stability in the exchange rate of the dinar. This process that they've been working on for the last several years, they are telling us by the end of this year, 2024, the platform, the electronic platform that's used for their oil reserves, controlled by the Federal Reserve Bank in New York, they will be shifting away from. Goldilocks articulated it in the article on Saturday, is Iraq will be gaining their independence away from the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. Where was this meeting? Where was it at? The CBI met with? In New York. With who? The Federal Reserve Bank. And the U.S. Treasury, Citibank, J.P. Morgan Chase, Ernst & Young, and other international auditing firms. This will allow them to enhance their efficiency in the financial system in Iraq. This is right in the article, folks, the press release from the CBI. The meetings also in New York City also dealt with the mechanisms, meaning the electronic means of expanding the network of international correspondent banks, meaning Iraq will be able, the CBI will be able to connect to other banks around the world as a result of this shift away from the electronic platform. Meaning also a shift away from the executive role, the executive control of the Federal Reserve Bank. This is removing the middleman. Can you imagine? You're paid every week, every 2 weeks by your employer, but you have to go to someone else and say, hey, can I please have my just due? Can I have my money to pay my bills? Can you imagine as an entrepreneur, you have to go to someone else and say, oh, my client paid me, but can you give me my money? Can you imagine you're on fixed income and the money is sent to your bank and you have to go to someone else and say, hey, can you please give me my money? Instead of you being able to go right to your debit card and make your payments, your bills, pay your bills. Iraq, since 2003, when the U.S. invaded Iraq and took control of their oil revenue in order to avoid terrorist financing, so forth and so on, they've been controlling the oil revenue in Iraq. But they are announcing directly from the CBI by way of the agreements and contracts that were actually signed in the beginning of this year, 2024, in January, when Iraq met with the CBI, met with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and the U.S. Treasury. They met in Dubai, where it was signed and agreed upon that they will be allowed to use other foreign currencies as well in Iraq, which helps to give them stability. And that is by what the CBI is announcing also in this press release, where it states they also dealt with mechanisms of expanding the network of international correspondent banks and qualifying banks to meet the necessary requirements to open their accounts, meaning Iraq, with international correspondent banks in order to enable them, meaning enable Iraq, to complete their financial transactions, whether through external transfers in the US dollar currency or other foreign currencies, which was already signed upon by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the U.S. Treasury in Abu Dhabi, with the UAE dirham, the Turkish lira, the Chinese yuan. That is the basket of currencies. This is the foreign currencies that it's referring to from this press release. Because what it does is it allows the stability of the dinar, and for the dinar to gain its independence and the grip of the United States Federal Reserve to be released from Iraq. There has never been a holdup. This has always been a process. It's always been a process. The United States already signed off and agreed to this in January. Iraq is in the process of removing the middleman, which is the United States. They're in the process of gaining their independence. They're in the process of the grip being removed. They're in the process of obtaining their freedom and sovereignty. And they're telling us directly from the central bank, this press release from the media office of the CBI is saying, by the end of this year, 2024, the shift will begin. The removing of the electronic platform. In 2011, the White Paper Economic Reform Plan by the late Dr. Shabibi stated in that plan, it states, it's a 75-page document. I read it. I know it like the back of my hand. It states, one of the final pieces for Iraq to begin the process to revalue the currency is to be removed from the electronic platform. Folks, you don't need someone to tell you, this weekend. Iraq is telling you what they're doing by the end of this year. How is it? How is it? I'm speaking to your soul now, not as an investor, from my soul to yours. How is it that you are not allowing your discernment, your God-given discernment, to take over and control? Iraq is removing the middleman. Why will you not do the same? You don't need Freedom Fighter, Goldilocks, or anyone else to tell you what is happening. We can show you in writing. You don't need for someone to tell you, oh, my high-level sources said. The CBI is telling you what they're doing by the end of this year. Does it mean they will RV at the end of this year? No, that's not what they're saying. What they are saying, though, is they're removing the middleman. This is about the quantum financial system. The quantum financial system is not a bank account. It removes the middleman. It removes the bank. Iraq is in the process of connecting to the quantum financial system, so they don't need a middleman. They don't need the Federal Reserve Bank to control their oil revenues. We as human beings on across this God-given earth, now that the quantum financial system is being interlinked and connected, we don't even need it. We won't even need a bank to do banking, where we will have an independent ledger that we control and have our freedom and sovereignty. Iraq is doing the same thing. Use your discernment, folks. Iraq is doing it. Why not you? Iraq deserves it. So do you. Use your discernment when you're hearing from anywhere about supposed people getting paid and rumors about anything. Think, if Iraq is telling you in writing directly from the CBI what they are doing to remove themselves from the grip and the power and the middleman by the end of this year, 2024, why do you need someone else to tell you anything otherwise? Use your God-given discernment. Take your power back. You deserve it. Iraq is doing it. Why not you? All the other countries around the world that are in the process of connecting to the quantum financial system, which is a blockchain and not a bank account. This is the removing of the middleman. If every other country around the world is doing so, and the leveling of the playing field is in motion, why not you? You deserve it. You deserve it. Take your power back, folks. Remove the middleman. Remove the middleman. Take it directly from the CBI, what they're telling you. It's right here in writing. This is a press release from the CBI. Goldilocks Global Banking News, by way of Goldilocks, is sharing directly from the source. Even Goldilocks and D shared 3 weeks in advance that this meeting was going to happen in New York. It was not an unannounced meeting. We shared publicly with you 3 weeks in advance. We share this with love, unconditional love. I hope that you receive it that way. Be well. Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR, brought to you by Freedom Fighter.